There's always something kind of thrilling about hidden knowledge, right? Like finding a secret passage or something, like something most people don't even know is there. And this Liber Porta Lucis thing, that's definitely got that vibe.
Yeah, it's like it's trying to be mysterious, isn't it? Even that subtitle, the subfigure XA a bit, feels like a code we're supposed to crack.
Totally. So before we really get in the weeds here, what's the deal with this text? What's it all about?
Well, basically, the Liber Porta Lucis says it's a path to, get this, absolute truth, absolute light, absolute bliss. Like a guidebook, but only for certain people.
There's that exclusivity again. It's funny how this text plays on that, like wanting to be in the know, like we're getting special access or something.
Oh yeah, tons of esoteric traditions are like that. All the secret languages, symbols, rituals. It's like they're trying to separate themselves from everything else.
Exactly. And this text is full of it. Like right at the beginning, it talks about only being for those who are ready. So who is ready? Is there like a whole initiation thing?
It mentions the usual stuff, like how you were born, if you're rich, smart, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it goes beyond that. You got to be an adept, someone who's already on like a specific path, I guess. And then there's talk of servants of VVV and going to ages beyond the ages.
Okay, now that is mysterious. VVV, ages beyond the ages. What are we supposed to make of that?
Using cryptic abbreviations and all that, it reminds me of other mystical traditions, like Gnosticism, They were big on secret names for divine beings. Or Hermeticism, where they use symbols to teach their secret stuff.
Well, so we can't say for sure this text is part of any one thing, but it's pulling from a bunch of them, like a greatest hits of esoteric ideas or something.
Exactly. And that just makes it even more interesting, like finding a new weird branch on a tree you thought you knew. And you got to figure out, how does this fit in? What else can I learn from this?
I like that, like putting on a new pair of glasses and suddenly everything looks different. And it seems like a big part of that is this idea of a journey, like a transformation the reader's supposed to go through.
Yeah, and the text uses these really interesting metaphors to explain that.
The metaphors, now that's where things get good. Like that one with the mountain climber slowly going up, leaving the normal world behind. Yeah, it's powerful stuff, like a tough climb, but you get somewhere amazing in the end. But in this text, is the mountain like a real thing or more of a symbol? Or both, maybe?
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It could be either way, and the text doesn't really say. It's like it wants us to figure out what the mountains mean for ourselves.
So it's all about like personal interpretation then. Okay, what about that other metaphor, the one about old languages? What did you make of that one?
Oh, that's a good one. Comparing figuring out the Liber Porta Lucis to a scholar figuring out some ancient language.
Yeah.
Like there's hidden wisdom there if you can just crack the code.
And the people who do the work, who get all the symbolism in the secret language, they're the ones who really get it.
Right. It's like we want to discover things, find hidden truths that most people miss. But that's where it gets tricky, right? Because symbols, they can mean different things to different people.
Like one of those trick pictures changes depending on how you look at it. Miss the symbolism entirely if you're too focused on the literal stuff.
Exactly. And that leads to a big question. Who decides what's the right way to see it? This text, it seems to say some people just understand more than others.
Yeah, that whole thing about adepts and servants of VV, like there's definitely a hierarchy there. And I get it, not every book is for everyone, right? Some things you need to be ready for. But it's a slippery slope, saying some people get it and some people just don't.
Totally. There's a difference between saying, hey, this teaching might make more sense if you've already done some work on yourself, and saying, you're not allowed to even try to understand this.
Right. It's like this text wants to have it both ways. Universal truth, but with a VIP list. Which brings us to, I think, one of the wildest parts. The whole absolute truth thing.
Yeah, it's pretty bold, isn't it? It just comes right out and says, this is how reality is, and all the religions and philosophies, they're not the full picture.
There's that line I thought was interesting, something like, to the adept, there's no real difference between Buddha and Muhammad, atheism or theism. Like, it's saying, sure, all roads lead to Rome, but you got to be one of us to even see the map.
And that's where it gets tricky, right? It wants to be this universal truth, but also this exclusive club.
Yeah, tough needle to thread. Like, okay, maybe there are different ways to see the world, but this text is saying, our way is better.
Exactly. So how do we square that circle? Is it saying other paths are wrong? Or just like incomplete, and who gets to decide that anyway?
It really makes you think,
Yeah.
Especially with a text this confident, It's
Yeah.
easy to get caught up in the mystery, the secret knowledge, all that. But you got to step back and say, hold on, does this feel right to me?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Texts like this, they're not about getting the right answers. It's about asking the right questions, about looking at what you believe and saying, why do I believe this?
Right. It's like that thing, take what you need, leave the rest. Not everything's going to work for everyone, and that's fine.
Exactly. That's what makes exploring this stuff so cool. You get to choose what makes sense for you, what feels real.
So, say someone's really into this Liber Porta Lucis thing. What would you tell them? How should they approach it?
Be curious, definitely. But don't check your brain at the door. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to disagree. See how it lines up with other stuff you've learned.
Like we were saying before with the mountain climber and the scholar, it's a journey, but you don't have to follow someone else's directions.
Exactly. Make your own path. See what you discover. Even if you decide the Liber Porta Lucis isn't your thing, exploring it can still teach you a lot.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about staying curious, right? Being open to what's out there. And who knows, maybe while you're looking for those hidden truths, you find something even more interesting yourself. And that's our deep dive into the Liber Porta Lucis. Until next time, keep exploring.